clearly. We'll take as many live questions as you want to take today. We'll also do some Twitter questions
I
later.
did a Madonna podcast the other day, and it was funny. So it was a great conversation, but it became such a conversation that we both forgot that we were essentially holding mics. So at one point, he's talking to me, and his mic is down here. And if you're listening at home or in your car, my hand's like down on my belly button. And next thing I know, I asked him something like, "Who's the fourth line center on the '99 team that he played on?" And as he's thinking, he's looking up the sky, and he takes his mic, and he's honestly holding it like out to the right. And for like 25 seconds, he's not talking into anything. He's just talking to me. But he's staring at the ceiling as he's trying to think of who the fourth line center is, whether it's Screwy or Tony Herkus or something. And I'm like, honestly, like waving at him to like get his attention and speak into the mic. And so like there was like 45 seconds on that podcast where like you just can't hear Madonna because it was like one of those things where we just like forgot that it was that comfortable of a conversation, after a while, where it's like you just forgot you were even recording. So it's like you and I, Jim.
You know why we bought headsets for this network?
Yeah.
It's because Michael used to do this when we were talking. And the mic would just kind of drift off and we wouldn't catch. That's why we bought these things. So we.
How about the one podcast where I was like pacing around my hotel room and Brandon was like frantically texting me, like, "What are you doing?" Like standing one spot. And so anyway.
Yeah. You told me to ask you about the Lyft drivers in Buffalo.
Oh, my God. Well, first of all, Dan Myers, Sarah McClellan from the Star Tribune, Kevin Gorg, and I believe Megan, their PR person, went to the Bills Stadium the other day and got a real private tour. And as they're coming back...
It's an old school place.
As they're coming back, apparently this Lyft driver turned into oncoming traffic and was going, like, fast down the wrong way of a one-way street, and Dan Myers had to, like, scream at him to wake him up. And then he just stopped in the middle of the road. And what was really coincidental or ironic about that is that Anthony LaPanta and I had, like, three of the same experiences. I had three of the worst Lyft experiences I've ever had in my life. Like, first of all, I'm picked up at the airport by somebody that I open up their trunk, and it's just full of their life. Like, no area. Like, you're picking somebody up at the airport, you got to think they're going to have luggage. Could not put. It's a 2-day trip, so I had like a little carry-on that you bring on a plane. Could not get the bag in there. So that was the first one. Then the second one, this one, oh man. This one to bring us to the restaurant that Anthony and I were eating at, this place called Sinatra's, which was 15 minutes of honestly being frightened. He was just a crazy guy. He started like talking in his hand like it was a walkie-talkie, like to nobody. Like, "Hey, Batman." I mean, it was like he was talking like he was like it was crazy. And what was scary is that Anthony didn't seem to notice. And I'm like kind of trying to like.
Anthony was talking to himself.
Well, he was like first texting with Margot, then he called Margot, and Anthony didn't seem to notice. Then he got off the phone, and then the guy starts talking just about nothingness, about ripping on the Sabres to us, even though it was like, I know nothing about hockey, but I try to learn about hockey so I can have conversations in the car. And I was like, don't worry about it. We don't need to talk. But then he starts talking about Seattle, and I go, have you ever been to Seattle? And he turns to me in traffic and screams, "I just told you I'm moving to Seattle." And I'm like, I look at Anthony, I'm like, did he tell me that? He goes, "No." And I'm like, all right, let's all take a deep breath here. And he is just, I mean, every light is like, 200 yards, and he is gunning it and then hitting the brakes, hitting the brakes. Then he went on this rant about something. Oh, he starts ripping on the stereotype that an Italian restaurant would be named Sinatra's. And Anthony and I are like, what? Like, what do you, like, that's not stereotypical. Freaking Sinatra's. It was nuts. So we get out of the car, and I look at Anthony. I honestly was like sweating and nervous. So then I'm like, three times the charm, right? I call the Lyft driver back. And this time again, Anthony's on the phone with Margot after dinner. And this guy was an absolute maniac driving us back. I mean, highway going 85, taking wrong turns. It was just, I could not believe it. So, And I remember ripping, like during the draft a couple years ago, they didn't have Lyft and Uber yet. And I remember like it was a catastrophe in Buffalo when they didn't have it because you have the entire hockey world in Buffalo. That's when the the Ottawa person got in trouble with getting in the hotel shuttle with the kid. Probably because they didn't have a Lyft. But they have the Lyft they had no Lyft and Ubers there, and there was like just no way. There was no way the cabs can handle it, and it is just what a gong show. Anyway,
it is weird because I felt like when I first started using Lyft and Uber, it was like a taxi, only it's a little bit cheaper. Yeah. Now it is. It's like people have their laundry in the trunk, and you want to put your luggage in there, and they're like, "No, you can't. I have my laundry here."
Well, I'm not kidding you when I tell you that I have not had one bad experience here in Minnesota with a Lyft. I don't think, maybe one or two. And I've driven. I mean, according to my thing, I've driven like 280. I've been in a Lyft 280 something times. So I mean, this is what happened in Buffalo is a rarity, but for it to happen 3 out of 3, even this morning, Sarah and I at 4:45 in the morning, we got into the same Lyft driver that canceled me twice, and we finally get in there. He does not say a word to us from the moment not even a hello, from the moment we get into the Lyft to the airport. So it actually was 4 for 4. And the car had to be 90 degrees to the point that Sarah, who's in the right seat next to me in the back of this Infinity SUV, like oh so slightly cracked the window, and she was so nervous to do it because she thought this guy was going to like turn around and just like take care of us. So, and we get out, and she just looks at me and goes, "What the hell was that?" Oh, I don't know, friendly guy. And that was my best experience in Buffalo for 4 straight lifts. So, anyway, I gave them all 5 stars though.
You're afraid you'll see him again?
Well, no, because like I still to this day have a 4.5 or 4.6 Uber rating, and it angers me every time I see it. Like I'm a great driver in that back seat. I shouldn't have be penalized. I'm pretty convinced that it's because of LaPanta. LaPanta once got into a Uber with me in Toronto and was acting like a fool, and I know that I got bad rating that day, and I've never gotten it back up. So.
The things you worry about, man. Yeah. Thanks to Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. As I've told you, locations over by the Wild offices, by the XL Energy Center, and, of course, downtown over Crown Bank in downtown Minneapolis. Also out at the Mall of America, they have their big shop, fixologyrepair.com.
Hi, this is John with Fixology Repair. For the better part of a decade, we've been privileged to serve you for all of your jewelry, watch, and smartphone repair needs at the Mall of America. Since Minnesotans largely hate going to the mall, we expanded 2 years ago to reach you in the Minneapolis Skyway. And now this year, we're pleased to announce we have a new location at Wells Fargo Place in the St. Paul Skyway. All 3 shops are equipped to help with your watch and cell phone repair needs on-site, while all jewelry, computer, and game consoles will be completed at the Mall of America store. Please bring us your repair challenges, and don't forget to mention the Talk North podcast for a 10% discount on all of our services.
Just dawned on me that we've done this podcast for 30 minutes and we haven't talked about the Wild yet, have we?
I was about to try to fix that. By the way, our next live shows, thank you to everybody who comes out to these. First of all, December 11th and December 30th. We'll be here at 7 o'clock, December 11th and December 30th at Tin Shed. And again, tinshedmn.com is the best way to find out where it's located and what it has to offer once you get here. Great comfort food and beer and whatever else you like, a bunch of special deals. Also, if you go to tinshedmn.com, they have coupons and their deals, their buy one, get one free offers, all that stuff. Vicki, thank you for coming up.
Boy, it's painful watching you walk.
It's painful walking.
Yeah, my God.
Mike Babcock.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yep, man that invented hockey.
Yeah, they didn't get much value for their $50 million, did they?
No. I was talking to this ex-player today on the phone, and he had and it was not about Babcock, it was about players. We were talking about just long-term contracts, and he goes, has anybody ever done a study if there's ever been a long-term contract in any professional sport where at the end of the contract, the player was actually still delivering? And the reality is that no. But yet it's still just, 13-year deals, 8-year deals, 7-year deals. It's just nuts. And here's an 8-year, $50 million contract for a coach. He's not going to ever fulfill that. It just doesn't happen in most cases. especially Mike Babcock, because he has this way of grating on you. He's a challenging coach. The way he speaks is sometimes hard to listen to, even for the media. And good coach, knows the sport, but I think that just wears on players. He's challenging. He expects them to grind games out. And but the thing about the Leafs is they can afford to just say adios for that type of money. They're swimming in money. And what Mike Babcock did for the professional coaches right now in the NHL is just ginormous. He took a profession that essentially had no involvement with salaries in the 20 years that I was covering this league, and now everybody is minimums, like basically making $1 million as a coach, you would think, except Rod Brindamore. And at $6.25 million, all of a sudden guys like Trotz are getting paid, and just huge money. The Laviolettes of the world, and Boudreaux's making $3 something. So he helped that, but it also makes him very almost unemployable now, because somebody's going to have to pick up a lot of that contract unless Toronto's going to allow a team to essentially pay almost nothing and pay him to coach another team, which I think would be hard to do. You imagine he got a job coaching the Ottawa Senators, and Toronto's paying 4/5 of his salary to coach a rival,
Well, that's what makes me nervous, because we're wondering what's going to happen to Bruce at the end of the season, and I just don't like that Babcock's going to be out there in the coach pool.
Well, again, it's whatever deals he can make, but Craig's not going to pay a $6 million guy, and if I'm Mike Babcock, I don't know. I look at this as not the most appetizing thing right now. I don't think there's any real relationship with Babcock and Guerin. Not that I know of, at least. I just don't see Leopold paying that type of money.
Well, I feel bad for the Leafs fans, because they had high hopes with him coming in there.
Yeah, well, similar to Guerin, though. Dubas, he was not. They were not. That wasn't Dubas's guy. That was Shanahan's guy.
Yeah.
And so now Dubas gets his guy.
Right.
Sheldon Keefe is Dubas's guy. So that's the way it works. And I hate to say it, love you, Bruce, but Bill Guerin's going to eventually get his guy. It's just a matter.
I
of
want
who
you to quit saying that.
You
said it enough.
I know. It's just that's life. It sucks, but it's going to happen.
Got it.
At some point. I don't think during the season, but at some point.
Well, Philip has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Fire away, Philip.
How's Michael Gramlin doing, Philip?
Wow,
No,
so
don't.
cold.
You're going to
So
upset Mary
cold.
before you upset Philip.
Yeah, that's true.
How and when do you
Starving.
decide that a young player is what he is, which he's quoting you, and that a team should move on from him, and when do you just need to be patient?
It's the age-old question, right? Because I bet you 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Billy Guerin would have traded Fiala in a heartbeat. I bet he's that way about Donato right now. But what if Donato does this in a couple weeks? We've seen Donato play a point-a-game here. We saw it for 15 games when he first got here, so there's got to be something there. It's the question. The old Neil Smith thing, I think it was Neil Smith that once said to me that he was talking about, I think, Kovalev or something, that the key to being a good general manager is trading a guy whose stock is still high before everybody else knows that he's not this player that they think he is. And that is the tough thing here for any GM. It's dangerous. I think we all knew that Brent Burns had it in him, but I don't think anybody thought that he had this in him. It's like I was watching Burns when we were in San Jose a couple of weeks ago, and the guy he is a true superstar. Even if he doesn't score, he changes the game. He's just that impactful of a thoroughbred type presence. But it's hard. Donato, I would consider moving. I just don't see it. I think the world of the kid, but I think he's got a lot of flaws that I don't know if you could change. From a skating perspective, strength, and things like that, that doesn't compensate for the shot that he doesn't use enough of. But we saw him in San Jose score a goal that shows that he has it. So it's not an easy question. It's feel. You could trade Fiala and just look stupid. That's just the reality, and so it's a tough thing for any GM to say. I said this like a couple of weeks ago. I wrote a Fiala story, and in there I said that 23 is too young to give up a player, and a couple of Wild fans on my comment section just lit me up, thinking that 23 shows what type of player you are. Like I've covered this league a long time. it takes a while for most guys to develop into the true product they are. Everybody is not built in a computer. Kevin Fiala is a different human being than a Connor McDavid or an Austin Matthews or Patrick Kane or a Laine or